Well, we've got the camera set up over here, and we weren't going to actually hop into the front of this tractor here. We were just going to do an in-frame engine rebuild. Then what we found out there was that it needed a few other things, but while we had it down and had the opportunity, a friend John said to me about on the cam, there's a little oil groove or something on the cam, and the engine oil pressure comes up through the gallery, and to get oil to the back of the cylinder head, or up to the cylinder head, there's a little slot or something on the cam, and that, as the engine turns, it traps a bit of oil and pushes it up there. So, and look, that's something I don't know about. It's never been brought to my attention before. So, while we have the cylinder head off the top of the engine here, and we don't have the cam followers in, I just thought, we're getting off track a little bit, but it's a great time to slide this cam, have a look at the time and gears, the time and chain and all that sort of thing, and run through it. This little tractor, she's going to be the rattiest looking tractor, but the sweetest running one, I reckon. But so what we're going to do is pull the front pulley, pull the timing cover, pull the cam out, and we're going to investigate this and see how it works. It's something I don't know about. Now, I've also got the front axle housing on here still, and you know, all these bolts are loose from when I started dropping the sump off and all that, so they are a bit loose. So I thought, oh well, I don't know if we can do the job with the front axle in. I'm thinking probably not, but let's have a go. Then we know it's a simple process to take it off if we want to, but I just thought it'd just be interesting. People ask sometimes and I don't have the answer. Another thing I'd like to bring everyone's attention to before we pull it apart is this is our governor lever. Now, the top of this fella here, I wonder, can I zoom out a little bit? Yeah, so you can see that a little bit more. The governor rod here, this goes up to your throttle on the top, and this goes back to your carby. Now, before we pull that apart, if we pull this right forward and run a line straight up, it's almost straight up and down. It may be a couple of degrees to the front, but it's not very much. Then when we push it back, and you can feel it coming back against the spring there, this spring on the end of this screw here, and when we look at that and we run a line from the end of the generator bracket here through, we're just forward of halfway on the lever here. And look, I'm just doing that just to see how it works, to see what's the go there. I'll zoom you back in. We're off to the side a little bit, but that's how we have to be for you to see what I'm doing. Now, on the front pulley nut here, where you would crank it, there's a couple of lock tabs on there, and I don't think, even if I put a light in there, no, that's just too much, isn't it? And there's a lock tab. So what I've done, I've hopped in, I've knocked the lock tab back. There's 3 lock tabs on this one, and only one was locked over, and that's good, it lets you use it again. And because I have the sump off at the back, I've put a screwdriver under the oil filter back into the ring gear so the crank can't turn when I'm trying to undo the nut. I cracked this before off camera. The spanner that fits this the best that I have is 1 7/16 AF, and I get still a little bit loose, but look, it did the job fine. So we'll pop this out. A little crack in the pulley here, I don't know. It must have had a bit of a wire life. You have a look through here, and this is all little bits of steel that have been welded across the top of the main axle beam here. So she could tell some stories, this old tractor. But we're going to leave it ratty, and we're just going to get it running really nicely is my goal. Have it the sweetest running old shitbox looking tractor. We'll see how we go. From this end looking back, I can actually see one of the linkage arms bent that I didn't notice before. So this is a normal thread, it's not a left-hand thread. No, we can't even clear that nut with the front axle where it is, I don't think. Oh yes we can. No we can't. Okay, I think I'll drop this front axle down just to get it out of the way, and it will help us with filming, but I always wondered that, whether you had to pull it off or not, but yeah, you just can't get it all out there, so that's not a worry. And that's with it undone a bit too, so okay, I'll drop that off, I'll come back in a little bit, eh? Well, look, here we are. The front fell off. Look, it was a bit hard. Some of the old bolts were quite rusted in and jammed in, and I used up half my quota of swear words this morning already, and it's only just 7 o'clock. So we'll just, oh, how it goes, isn't it? Okay, so while I was pulling the front off, I thought, well, an interesting thing would be just to measure from the front of the engine block here out to this governor arm. And it would depend on the height, but I haven't got a head here to work it to the hole. But when you put that there, I'll just and run it out. Very close to 3 inches from the front of here to the hole. Then going right back. Look, funny enough, it's very close to 2 inches. Probably about a 16th under 2 maybe. Anyway, I just thought that might be interesting as a reference. So we'll zoom in here a little bit if we can, so you can see what's going on. And I'll try not and kick the tripod. So we got the front off. We've undone this lock tab here, this lock. That's the tab that holds one of those gets knocked over the, this one here on ours gets knocked over against the flat here, and it also has a little locating tit there, and that sits in the pulley here to stop it turning as you do it. And mine had a washer on the front of it. So that's all straightforward stuff. Now this can be hard or not hard. Be a bit careful with this, but on mine I just put a screwdriver in and it came off like that. How easy is that? I think that's an easy kill really. Yours may not be like that. Now while we're having a look here, we just have a look at the seal surface. I might use this bit of rag here. And look, that's pretty good. That'll polish up nicely. There's no big grooves. Very dirty, but we'll clean that up. I wasn't planning on pulling any of this off. I was just going to leave it, so I've made myself a bit of a job, haven't I? Okay, so next up, let's just pull this timing cover off. Now, that's just a series of 1/2-inch bolts. Now, here's a socket over here. What do we got here? That's a 1/2-inch one. That'll probably work well. So we need to clean some of the rubbish out first. Not ideal how we're working on this, but that's all right. We'll clean it all up when we get in there. Yeah, some of these have got a bit of how do you do on it. So we'll do the time and cover seal. We'll do the, well, we'll do whatever it needs to have done. Nothing to it, eh? I have to get this generator bracket out of the way somehow. The old generator's a bit dicky. Can you see just under there that bracket's broken off and they've drilled another hole up here. I was talking to an old fellow the other day and we were talking about these generators, and there was a fellow in Toowoomba, and in the early days on the old trucks and that, the Bedford trucks, they used to have a generator, yeah, same thing roughly, 12 volt generator, and because of the belts and all that, he said, oh, you had to keep the belts tight on those old girls, so they, these generators have a bearing in the front here and just a bush, it's a bush that you can squeeze oil into and lubricate. But he was saying on the interstate truck runs, they were forever buggering that back housing up because they had to have the belts so tight. All the truckies at the time used to cart a generator with them. Anyway, this fella up in Toowoomba, he actually got cast and machined up new back housings for the Lucas generator that had the same bearing as in the front here in the back there. They reckon they lasted hundreds of thousands of miles, these old generators, once they fixed that up. So, yeah, just something interesting, isn't it? If you're a bit of a tractor head. And we'll just get all this undone. Probably a bit boring this, but anyway. Won't be long and we'll be up to our elbows in grease and we'll all be happy. And we'll go through now on this job, and we'll have to settle the governor and all up again, so you'll probably enjoy watching that, I suppose. I've already got a video out on the governors on the FE35 of my grey and gold petrol tractor. It's in that series there somewhere. And we've even got a new seal for this shaft here, so we'll go through putting that on. A lot of stuff you don't ever see. I've never thought to show you a lot of that stuff. There's another one here. The birds are waking up. Kelly dog's been out chasing kangaroos. I'm not sure I got you on a real good angle there, but anyway, I might bring you in closer once we get this front cover off. They all seem to be the same. One in here somewhere, I'm bloody, I think. There he is, sneaky little bugger. Gee, I'm getting the mess on the floor. Okay, now this generator bracket, we're going to have to deal with that, and look, it can be as simple as finding the two bolts that hold it on here. and just backing them off. Not even tight. There's only one on it. I didn't see that. There's another one. Oh no, there's another one down the bottom. Okay, that's hiding out of the way. So that'll let that come forward. We'll just do another check, make sure we've got all the bolts. It looks like we have. There's a little dowel up in here, so it's going to pivot around there probably, or want to. Whoop, and there we go. That's inside. That's quite worn here. And this little screw there, it goes and holds this spring out. So I normally screw these in a couple just to allow for all this wear to get the governor working well. There's our timing cover seal. We'll knock that out and replace that. We'll put a new gasket on and, oh look, we'll give it a general bath and we'll annoy shit out of it until it becomes nice and tidy. Okay, now these shims. We'll go through setting all this up when we organise, when we're going back together. And there's a key. There's a little key there, and we'll push these back away from it and just give this key a bit of a if we punch the back of it, it might come up at the front for us. It's a little half moon key, or Woodruff key. There it is, don't lose that. Now all this will come out. We have some shims sitting in there. This is an oil slinger, so any oil coming around the place, it throws it away from the seal, so there's less chance of the bottom seal leaking. But this old girl had that much blow by, I think it wouldn't matter what was going on there. You reckon she's a bit loose? Yeah. This is our governor cup, and you can actually see there on this one, see the wear here? You can see where these weights here have worn into there over time. That's interesting too. I can't remember seeing that, but like I say, this old girl was dusted, so who knows what goes on there. All right, what I'll do now, I see a timing mark here, and you can see where this weight has been sitting out against the gear, same there, and all that movement there, I've actually seen these tractors blow an engine up because of this wear. So look at that. And what happens is one of these weights, they just wear through. And one of these weights comes down, gets caught in the works here, and your valve timing jumps a cog, and a valve bloody sits low when the piston's coming up, and it doesn't end any good. Yeah, That's a lot of movement. New ones, gonna have new ones. Okay, I'll go around the back. I've still got the screwdriver in under the oil filter there from when I jammed it to get the nut undone. I'll undo that, and I'll try and bring the camera down in here low, and so we can check the timing before we do anything else. And then we'll have a look how much the cam can move. And look, that's when we line up. If we line up a link with the end of this hole here, and we're about there now, a bit past, so look, it's probably 5 millimetres or more. And with the engine putting along, I know it'll just pull on this side and it'll go, but then like the wear in that's huge. Okay, I'll stop rambling. I'll turn the camera off. I'll have it so we can turn the engine over and check a little bit of stuff out, and we'll hone in on the timing marks while we have a chance to. Okay, we've got the timing cover off. I've taken the screwdriver from round the back, so we can now turn the engine over, and there's no effort to it. We have no pistons in it yet. We don't have the head on or anything like that, so it's just round and round we go. So what I would probably like to point out at this stage, when I find my old dirty bits of rag that I've been using, is on the bottom sprocket here, we have a timing mark, and that's it there. Then we have another one on the camshaft sprocket, and at the moment that's up there. So, I suppose you understand, perhaps you don't, that the driving sprocket on the crankshaft is half the number of teeth of the camshaft sprocket. Being a 4-stroke engine, you have an intake, stroke, a compression, a power, an exhaust. So the cam only needs to open the valves on the inlet and the exhaust, so it doesn't need to open every time the piston goes up and down. So it runs at half the speed, and just the same as like your distributor sitting up the top there. Your distributor runs at half the speed. It doesn't need to fire every time. So every second rotation of the crank, you'll have it firing. So look, what we might do here is I might just pop this governor weight assembly out of the way. Now, I'm getting a mess here, but anyway, that's all right. Hey, if you don't like messes, you probably shouldn't play with tractors. Well, I'll put that down there with him. And your weight basket falls off. Now, can you see, what can you see there? You can see that? That's a lot of wear. And what it looks like to me, see these wear marks here? It looks to me like these have got that worn that it's actually running out and touching the gear. So for that to be touching the gear there, you can hear the kookaburras starting to bloody fire up for the morning. So with that sitting there, oh come on Lance, and back on there, well for those to come right out, that's a long way. So anyway, not to worry. That's worn. That'll be getting tanked. We're just going to chuck that away. We'll put a new one on. Now these sprockets are going to be worn for sure. We'll probably replace them, I'd say. Now, when we turn the crank around, Bang. So if you run a line straight through the centre of your crank to the centre of the gear, those two can be lined up. So that's what we're looking to do. Now there's some lock tabs here. I've folded them out a bit earlier just to do it. And if we find a, oh boy, that socket's stuck on there. I have to find my impact sockets. I can't find the bloody things. I've got them somewhere. So anyway, we'll just use our normal ones and flog them out, flog them to death. So at this stage there's nothing really to look out for because we haven't got anything on. You can't pull the cam out with the head on. You can replace all this timing train with the head on, but you can't pull the cam out, of course, because of the pressure that you have on the cam followers from the valve springs. So it's an ideal opportunity to have a look at what we'd like to have a look at here. So we've got a good, yep. I just had to turn and have a look at the monitor for the sound. So we'll get our screwdriver, give this a bit of a help off. That's our gear, or our sprocket I should say, and a lot of wear there. I'll keep this together like that and I'll compare it with the new ones. Okay, now to pull the cam out, we have these 3 bolts here on the thrust washer. So we'll just rattle them out quickly. And we will probably need to pull the distributor drive and all that out as well. Do it all good to have a clean one. Now this thrust washer, that's what holds your camshaft in place. So we have a look there. I don't know what the spec for camshaft end float is. I suppose we'll have to look it up, won't we? But you can see there's just no wear there. That's beautiful. There's a little bit on this side here. You can feel it with your fingernail. There's not much. Yeah, you can just feel that with your fingernail slightly. Anyway, we'll pop him aside. And yeah, now we shouldn't be able to pull the cam out because, oh look at that. Oh, we've got the drive out for the oil pump, that's right. Oh, I was second guessing myself there. So anyway, that's the bottom of the distributor. Now we should be able to pop that whole housing out. If I've got you at the right angles, yep, I might zoom you back out a little bit, I think. So on this distributor housing here, we just need to pop this fella out. There's a little trick here that when you go back in, it's not hard to drop the little key from the oil pump. We might run through this distributor too while we're going, I think. Like I say, I just want the smoothest, sweetest running little tractor. but she can look like look like a barn find. Once again, this is off a car with this little vacuum advance unit there. So it's probably not advancing properly. I may have a proper Fergie distributor for it, but if this is part of the history of the old tractor, I'm more inclined to just service it and put it back and have it as a talking point. Now I'll sit that down on the stand. There we go. There we go. Well, most of the spring washers are broken. That's a little offset key there. We'll sit him up there out of the way. And now this little oil pump drive should come out. There you go. And where the key is, on the shaft there, where is he? For this fella there, it's reasonably common for people to be doing their tractor up and they ring me up and say, oh buddy, I started my tractor, I got no oil pressure. And what happens is when they put this in the oil pump and all down the bottom, but when they slide the top gear in, this little key becomes dislodged. So there. Okay, back around the front. Okay, so now we have the distributor housing and the oil pump drive all out. We should be able to slide this out. Good indication of how clean we got the block down inside there. And that's what we're looking for. These little grooves at the back there, we'll do a bit of research on this while we have it out. And these little grooves and this little slot in the background here, that has to get oil pressure fed into it, and then it must trap some, and each time it comes round push a metered dose up to the cylinder head. And apparently on these old engines, if this gets blocked up and all carboned up over the years, you don't get the lube that you need up to your cylinder head. So there you go. I never knew about this. Those cam lobes don't look too badly worn either, which is always good. That one's a bit rusty looking, but we'll polish all them up. They're all looking quite nice. No hardening gone. I did have a look down when we had the other bit, but we'll wash all that up. So apparently the story is, make sure this is clean here. And this middle one has a little hole there where it must trap a bit of oil and take it for the lap around the block as well. And the front here doesn't appear to. I'll just have a bit of a look. Little oil hole there. But anyway, while we got all this apart, I think we'll get an air nozzle and we'll do a bit of a test of the oiling system. Now we'll replace this gasket here while we're going on this bottom plate here. Sometimes, because you have the plate off, or the timing cover off, you don't actually have it off, but this plate off, but when you loosen things up like we lever it out, that comes away a little bit. Then you don't see any rubbish there, but when you put it back, there's a little bit of dirt trapped in the back here. And so you think you're doing a wonderful job, you put it back, and next thing you've got a bit of an oil leak down the side there. And it's only because just when the tension came off it, yeah, a little bit of, let it forward enough for a little bit of dirt to come in. So while we're this close, we're going to replace that gasket. I'm sure I'd have one in the gasket kit. So we'll just do a little rattle here. And I'll have to get a puller and we'll pull this sprocket off as well. And that's the back of the plate. And like I say, yeah, as this comes forward, you can just get a little bit of that stuff up there if you haven't cleaned it, like we haven't anyway. And it just drops down the back, and you make yourself a leak. So we'll tidy all that up. There's a bit of dirt in here that we didn't get out when we were having a clean earlier. Okay, I'll get set up for pulling this. Oh, pardon me. I'll get set up for pulling this out, and yeah, I'll come back when it's ready to pull the sprocket. Okay, I got this little old gear puller I've had for 150,000 years, and I've just put a little bit of flat plate over the end of the crankshaft here, so when we pull, we're not damaging the thread. Now, you can screw the nut in, the bolt back in, and push down in there, and then as it comes off, yeah, you can adjust it out. But anyway, I just use the piece of flat. Now, I don't know how tight this is going to be. We've got to try and keep it all together. No, that's coming nicely. Now, there's the key that we took out earlier. There's another key under this gear. So seem to be getting a lot of road noise through today. Just the clear air, clear winter air. There we go. There's the timing mark. And a couple of things to take notice of, I suppose. We do have a shim here, a brass spacer there for it to come back against. Now, you'll notice at the front of the sprocket here with the timing mark has got a sharp shoulder here, and on the back it's got a radius. And often on crankshafts and that, you don't have a real sharp edge between the front and the bearing surface there, because a sharp edge becomes a shear point where a rounded corner is better. So that's okay. Those sprocket teeth, oh look, they don't look all that, oh they do when you have a look. It's straight this side, you can see it's starting to curl over this side here. So look, what we'll do, I've got the new parts here. When I realised we were going this way, I spoke to Sparex, and we've organised all the new gear to go in the front here. So we'll go over to the bench, or yeah, we'll do something anyway, and we'll have a look at the old parts versus the new. And yeah, look, it's just out of interest, and the main part of this job for myself was to work out, to have a look at this. It's something that, look, that had never been brought to my attention. I suppose everyone knew. Well, everyone else knew, I didn't. Okay, well, we'll get organised a little bit. I'm going to clean all this up. I'll put a pot under here, and I'll bring this all back to squeaky clean. And look at that, that oil's probably been there from years ago, maybe. And I'll clean up the floor, I'll clean up the whole front of the job here, and we'll run through setting it all up again. That'll be an interesting little exercise.